Bring in Roger Fisk. We enjoyed talking with Mr. Fisk. He's a guy who isn't coming at it from a purely party or ideological point of view. He's a Democratic strategist, former senior aide of communication and policy for Senator John Kerry. So you must have gone windsurfing with Kerry out there in Martha's Vineyard, right? You out there with him?
It was never really much of a social relationship. I spent many years of my life with him, but we didn't chum around.
You know, I hung with Kerry in his garage. I was there in his garage. I don't know what he was building, some little ship or something, and I was annoying him.
He's a big model maker.
Yeah,
he's a big model maker.
And I was making fun of him. That was when he was the senator from Massachusetts. All right, so everybody asked me, look, we never heard of any of these people. Hickenlooper, Inslee, Klobuchar, Cory Booker, Julian Castro, Tulsi Gabbard. We don't know any of them. All on the second tier names. Does any of them, in your opinion, have a chance?
My short answer would be no. Which is not to say that they shouldn't run, because as we've seen throughout the last quarter century of history, running the first time and winning can be the foundation for running a second time and winning.
And
McCain,
you said running a first time and winning. Running a first time and losing, you get name recognition. Sure, no doubt about it. But remember, Barack Obama came out of nowhere. And I think that's some role model for some Democrats. He came out of nowhere to get that nomination.
Yeah, absolutely. You didn't mention that, but I worked for him for 10 years as well. His was, it's always too early until it's too late, which is what I think some of the folks you just mentioned are thinking. It's better to do it early while you're still kind of building your national profile, because there's never going to be a day when someone taps you on your shoulder and says, oh, by the way, your national profile is complete. You can run for president now. So I think for some of those folks, doing that first run is actually part of answering that question about whether or not they're viable or not.
Okay, so we got tons of them in. A year from now, we'll already have the Iowa caucus and the New Hampshire primary in our file. So let's just run them down. Bernie Sanders had a successful Chicago rally over the weekend, but again, it looks like he may be. I don't know if Democrats are going to coalesce around Bernie Sanders. I don't think they believe he could beat Trump.
I think he has two challenges. One is to give some kind of new, fresh angle to his 2016 campaign. He can't just go out and hit replay. The second is that the space that he had occupied alone, for the most part, in 2016, is now occupied by a handful of other people. Yeah. So he has to kind of compete for a space that he himself created. But as we know, you can't take anything for granted. He carved out a wing of the Democratic Party, and the good news and the bad news is that now there's other people in that wing with him.
All right, I don't see him getting a nomination myself. Elizabeth Warren, very similar to Sanders, hurt herself with the Pocahontas stuff, the Indian stuff. I don't see her getting any traction because of Kamala Harris. So if Kamala Harris wasn't there, Warren have a bigger chance, but Harris pretty much takes up her oxygen. Am I wrong?
That is a fair assessment right now. First of all, the Pocahontas stuff really turns my stomach, and the fact that the president said that in front of our honorable Navajo code talkers is one of many low points.
But they weren't upset. None of the Indians were more upset with Warren, who actually used this in an official way to advance her career, than they were with anything that Trump said.
Well, I know that you don't want to necessarily go down that road. I'm sure the elder gentlemen who were being honored that day in the White House were probably able to exercise some level of self-restraint, whereas some of the leaders of national groups very justifiably took umbrage with the entire situation. To answer your specific question, I mean, Senator Harris has an advantage just because of the massive footprint of California and the fact that California has moved up in the calendar, just as Beto O'Rourke would have an advantage with the footprint of Texas. I mean, you get into that, I think that early March primary, and then that can severely alter the trajectory
But
of
it's
the
the
race.
same presentation from Warren and Harris, pretty much, is it not? I don't see a lot of difference in their policy views. Do you?
I feel a little bit more of the cultural case being made by Senator Harris, and I feel a little bit more of the economic case being made by Senator Warren, is the shorthand of my answer.
With the Democratic Party dependent on millennials, the younger candidate seems to have an advantage here if everything's equal.
Well, I know you have a lot of folks on your shows, so I can't expect that you would remember the last time I spent some time with you. But I think one of the cardinal rules I would be thinking about on our side of the aisle is nominating someone close to, if not a generation younger than the incumbent.
Yeah,
I think that was a
remember what you
massive
said. Right.
Yeah, I think that was a massive mistake of the Republicans in 1996 to nominate someone a generation older than Clinton, especially as we were heading into the millennium. So I think that you need to be sensitive about these things. Trump owns yesterday. He's banked his entire political existence on yesterday. So the question is like, who can really position themselves as someone as the agent of tomorrow? And I would submit that a younger candidate, significantly younger than the incumbent, is key to cracking that code.
And I think that a lot of these Democrats running for president agree with you, which is why you have Tulsi Gabbard and others. Beto O'Rourke, you assume he'll get in? I mean, why not? He doesn't have anything else to do.
My sense of that is just having 3 young kids, and I think he really has to think through what that'll mean for them. They're at that, I think 6, 8, and 12 or something like that, just right at that age when parents really want to be around. But then these moments don't come twice.
Well, for Beto it could, because he's young enough where he could. But I don't know what he does if he doesn't run for president. But you're right. I mean, you got to look at the kids, that's for sure. Now, my analysis is that Andrew Cuomo, who desperately wants to be president, won't go up against Biden. Do you concur?
I haven't heard that it's a binary choice like that. I would imagine, and I don't really know Governor Cuomo's people, so this is just me as a news consumer. I don't know that Biden in and of himself would be the deciding factor. I think what Governor Cuomo will look at is how many people of real substance get in. And then if he can come in as a 3-term governor, and he also splits that dynamic that I just talked about. He's not all the way to a generation younger than the president, but he's, I think, 15 or 20 years younger than the president. So he could possibly thread that needle of next generation kind of turning the page thing. I would imagine he could probably wait no later than maybe April or May of this year. Even if you don't announce, you still need to be lining up people, having those conversations with folks in Iowa and New Hampshire and things like that.
He's got money, though, Cuomo. He's
exactly.
got a pretty big war chest. And I know he wants to be president. All right, so I have predicted at this point, and anything can happen, that Biden will run as president, get the nomination, and Kamala Harris will be his second as VP. A compatible ticket?
I would have to see the chemistry between them as individuals. As a strategist, I would be reluctant to have 2 senators on the ticket. I would be looking to kind of split that up so that you kind of bring in different levels of expertise.
Though. He's a VP, Biden. They'll link him
that's
in
true.
to Barack Obama's legacy. That's what that'll be.
I think you and I can agree when it comes to Joe Biden. You can take the man out of the Senate, but you can't take the Senate out of the man. He tends to go on a little bit. There's that love affair with the extended sentence affliction that he has, similar to my former boss in some ways.
But I think he'll be very controlled if he runs, and I can't wait to see the Trump-Biden debate. That'll be great. Can you imagine that?
If it ends up that way, I mean, they should probably set aside about 5 hours for that to play out.
I mean, that's just... I'd like to referee that one. Hey, Roger, always a pleasure to talk with you. Thanks a lot, and thanks for taking the time. We really appreciate it.
All right, thanks, Bill. Be well.
See you soon.